Reflection. My friends, let me tell you something real. The world is full of people who can't handle your strength, your focus, or your peace. They can't compete with your talent, reflection, so they try to compete with your emotions. They can't reach your level, so they try to pull you down to theirs. Weak people don't fight you with logic. They fight you with chaos. Reflection. They don't attack your body. They attack your calm. Because if they can make you react, they can make you small. Reflection. But if you stay still, if you stay grounded, they lose every time. Weak people feed on reactions because that's the only kind of power they can access. They can't control outcomes. Reflection. They can't create progress and they can't build anything real. So they settle for controlling emotions. They study your triggers, your tone, your patterns. They wait for that one word, reflection, that one gesture, that one expression that shows they've gotten under your skin. The moment you react, they feel important. For a brief second, flexion, your emotional response gives them the illusion of dominance. And that's exactly what they want. Control without strength, attention without effort. Flexion. They know they can't beat you in discipline or determination, so they bait you into emotional chaos. They want to drag you into arguments that have no winners, just noise. Reflection. They want to make you question your own peace, your own worth, your own restraint. But when you respond to every jab, when you defend yourself to every insult, flexion, you hand them the keys to your energy. You turn their weakness into power and your strength into reaction. That's what they want. Because reaction is food to the insecure. Flexion. They don't need to win. They just need to know they can disturb you. But real power, real composure, reflection, real confidence comes from staying unshaken when everything around you tries to make you lose your cool. Flexion. The strongest people in the room aren't the loudest. They're the ones who choose silence when provoked, patience when tested, and dignity when disrespected. Reflection, because they know that losing your temper is expensive and peace is priceless. When you refuse to react, you take away their oxygen. When you stand still while they shout, reflection, you show them how small their chaos really is. You see, calmness is not weakness, it's mastery. It's the art of not letting fools pull you into their storm, reflection, but instead inviting them into your peace. Every time you choose to stay quiet instead of arguing, you grow stronger. Every time you walk away from a battle that doesn't deserve your energy, flexion, you rise higher. Your reaction is your reflection. Don't let anyone twist it to make you look like them. Because when you master the ability to stay calm under provocation, reflection, you don't just outsmart weak people, you make them irrelevant. Weak people disguise envy as criticism because it's easier for them to attack you than to improve themselves. Reflection, they'll point out your changes, your achievements, your confidence, and try to frame it as a flaw. You've changed. They'll say, when in reality, you've simply evolved. Reflection, they feel threatened because your growth exposes their stagnation. They can't understand discipline, persistence, or vision, so they resort to judgment. They mask their jealousy as advice, reflection, as warnings as moral superiority, but underneath it all, it's fear. Fear that you are moving ahead while they are still stuck in the same patterns, in the same limitations, reflection in the same excuses. Criticism from weak people is rarely constructive. It's a mirror of their insecurities. They will dissect your life, your choices, your confidence, reflection, and twist it to make themselves feel smarter, stronger, or more significant. They want you to doubt yourself, to question your path, to seek their approval, reflection, because their sense of self-worth depends on controlling the perception of others. But you can't hand them that power. When you explain yourself, when you defend your decisions, reflection, when you try to justify your evolution, you give them fuel. They thrive on noise, confusion, and your second guessing. Their goal isn't your improvement. It's your doubt, flexion. The antidote is simple but not easy. Focus on your purpose and let your results speak for themselves. Growth doesn't require permission, and success doesn't require validation. Reflection, when you continue to advance, to create, to master your craft, criticism becomes meaningless. Weak people can bark and point and whisper, but your life moves forward regardless. Reflection, they confuse attention with influence, but influence comes from integrity, consistency, and impact, not from tearing others down. You have to understand that criticism is not always about you. Reflection, often it's about them. Every word of judgment is a reflection of what they lack, what they fear, and what they cannot attain. When you recognize this, reflection, you are no longer reactive. You are immune. You continue your journey unaffected by their envy, unshaken by their comments. Reflection, unstoppable because you don't allow their insecurities to dictate your actions. Every time you rise above their judgment, every time you refuse to defend your progress, reflection, you reclaim the power they tried to steal. And in that reclamation, you don't just outsmart them, you transcend them. Reflection, Weak people want you to break character because they know that your composure is your weapon. They watch you closely, looking for cracks in your patience, moments of frustration, flexion, anything that shows you're human and therefore vulnerable. Every poke, every insult, every sly remark is a test designed to provoke a reaction to pull you into their chaos. Flexion. They know that if they can make you lose control, even for a moment, they gain the upper hand. But what they don't understand is that true strength isn't in shouting louder, flexion. It's in staying grounded while the world around you spins into madness. They try to bait you because they live in a world built on reactions, not results. Reflection. They thrive on the energy of other people's emotions because it makes them feel powerful. When they see you handling yourself with calm, when you respond with patience rather than anger, reflection, it disrupts everything they expect. Your stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting back their own insecurities and weaknesses. They are not used to someone not being rattled, someone not giving in, flexion, someone not handing over their dignity like it's something disposable. Every time you resist their provocation, every time you refuse to let their words dictate your mood, flexion, you take back control of your energy, you turn their plan of disruption into a lesson of mastery for them, even if they don't realize it, and for yourself, consciously. Reflection, this isn't just about staying quiet, it's about holding on to your power, your focus, and your vision. Every moment you maintain your composure chips away at their influence, reflection, because weak people only have leverage when you hand it to them. Breaking character doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means mastering them. It means choosing your battles, reflection, controlling your responses, and knowing that your peace is far more valuable than the temporary satisfaction they seek from a reaction, reflection. The moment you internalize that your reactions are your currency, you stop spending it on people who don't deserve it. When you rise above, you send a silent but powerful message, reflection. Your mind is yours, your emotions are yours, and no one can steal them without your permission. Weak people will always test you because that's all they know how to do. But by staying composed, flexion, calm, and unshaken, you don't just pass the test, you redefine the rules. You show that strength isn't loud, it isn't angry, and it isn't reactive. Strength is deliberate, measured, reflection, and unshakable. And when you embody that nothing they do can touch you, nothing they throw can hurt you, and nothing they hope for can derail you. Reflection. You've become untouchable in the truest sense because you've mastered the art of controlling yourself when everyone else wants to control you. Reflection. Weak people are threatened by boundaries because boundaries represent self-respect, clarity, and control, things they rarely possess. The moment you draw a line, reflection. The moment you say no without hesitation, the moment you refuse to bend to their demands, they feel exposed and frustrated. They are used to taking advantage of those who are pliable. Reflection, those who are eager to please, those who allow their peace to be compromised for the comfort of others. Boundaries are a form of armor, a declaration that your energy, your time, reflection, and your focus are not for everyone to manipulate. And weak people who survive by pushing, prodding, and pressuring see that as a direct threat. They will call you difficult, unreasonable, flexion, or selfish because their world is built on the illusion that people exist to serve their insecurities. They don't understand that saying no is not cruelty. It's strength, reflection. They confuse firmness with hostility because they have never experienced the power of self-discipline, self-respect, or self-control. Reflection. Every boundary you enforce reminds them of their own lack of structure, their own inability to say no to themselves, and their own dependence on the chaos of others. Flexion. Weak people may try to guilt you, manipulate you, or create unnecessary conflict to test your boundaries, hoping that you'll crumble under pressure. Flexion. But standing firm is not about confrontation, it's about mastery. Reflection. It's about knowing that protecting your peace and preserving your priorities is far more valuable than appeasing the insecurities of someone who thrives on your discomfort. Reflection. Every time you hold your ground, you teach them without words that strength is calm, confidence is quiet, and integrity is unwavering. Boundaries are a form of self-love and power. Flexion. They are the invisible walls that separate your purpose from distractions, your focus from frivolity, and your progress from regress. By refusing to let others overstep, reflection, you maintain control over your energy, your decisions, and your destiny. And when weak people push against those boundaries, reflection, their frustration is not about you. It's about their inability to create or protect the same in their own lives. The lesson is clear. Protecting your limits is not optional. It is essential. Flexion, every no you speak, every line you draw, and every standard you uphold is a declaration that your life is yours to live on your terms. Weak people will test, prod, and complain, reflection, but your consistency and resolve make them powerless. They can challenge, they can criticize, they can attempt to provoke, but they cannot breach what you have fortified with clarity, discipline, reflection, so respect. And in that steadfastness, you become untouchable, unshakable, and unstoppable. Weak people thrive in drama because drama is their comfort zone. Flexion. It's the only way they feel alive, relevant, or in control. They can't create, they can't focus, and they can't build something meaningful, so they feed on chaos. Gossip, conflict, flexion, and confusion are like oxygen to them. They inhale it, exhale it, and expect everyone around them to participate. When they stir trouble, they're not interested in truth, resolution, reflection, or progress. They are interested in attention. Every argument they provoke, every rumor they spread, every heated confrontation they manufacture is designed to make them feel significant. Reflection, even if that significance is hollow. Drama is a distraction. It shifts energy from productivity to reaction. Weak people understand this instinctively. Flexion, they know that when they pull others into emotional storms, they temporarily seize power without doing any work. Their tools are manipulation, provocation, and fear. Flexion, and their currency is the chaos they create. They will attempt to corner you, push your buttons, and draw you into their cycles of emotional turbulence because your reaction is their reward. Flexion, the louder you respond, the more energized they become, the calmer you remain, the more frustrated they grow. But you have to recognize that drama is not reality. It's performance, reflection. The people who thrive on it are actors in a story that doesn't belong to you. They want to pull you onto their stage so that your focus, your energy, flexion, and your peace can be consumed by their narrative. Every second you spend arguing, justifying, or defending yourself is a victory for them and a loss for your mission. Reflection. Weak people measure influence in noise, confusion, and emotional impact because they lack the substance to measure it in achievements, discipline, or consistency. Reflection. The antidote to drama is discipline. When you remain calm, when you focus on what matters, and when you refuse to participate in meaningless conflict, you strip them of the power they seek. Flexion. Your silence is louder than their shouting. Your work ethic is stronger than their manipulations. Your results are proof of a life directed by purpose, not chaos. Reflection. Every time you resist the urge to react, every time you choose focus over frenzy, you assert control over your own life while exposing the fragility of theirs. Reflection. Drama dies in the presence of clarity, patience, and purpose. Weak people can scream, manipulate, and provoke, but without someone to react, their influence evaporates. Reflection. Your power is in your attention, your focus, and your calm. Let them waste energy in their own turmoil while you build, grow, and rise. Let their chaos be the background noise to your masterpiece. Flexion. When you refuse to dance in their storm, you don't just outsmart them, you render their efforts irrelevant, proving that true strength lies in control, consistency, flexion, and the ability to remain undisturbed in a world full of disturbance. Weak people mistake kindness for weakness because they are used to a world where force, anger, reflection, and aggression dictate outcomes. They see compassion, patience, and generosity as opportunities to exploit rather than signs of strength. When you forgive quickly, when you show understanding, flexion, when you refuse to retaliate, they interpret it as vulnerability. They believe that anyone who doesn't fight back is small, easily controlled, and lacking power. Reflection. But the truth is that real strength lies in restraint, in choosing to act from principles rather than impulses, and in extending grace without expecting anything in return. Flexion. Keenness with boundaries is the most powerful armor you can wear. It's a declaration that you are not defined by others' actions, that your peace cannot be bought or bargained with. Flexion. And that your values are stronger than anyone's attempt to manipulate them. Weak people cannot see this. They only understand loudness, chaos, and compliance. Reflection. They are accustomed to bending others to their will through provocation, pressure, or guilt. But when you combine kindness with discipline, when you show empathy without compromise, reflection, you deny them the leverage they crave. You operate a higher plane where reaction is unnecessary, where control over yourself outweighs the desire to control others. When you forgive, reflection, it doesn't mean you accept being wrong. It means you refuse to hand over your energy to someone else's toxicity. When you act with patience, flexion, it doesn't mean you are weak. It means you understand that power is in long-term outcomes, not immediate satisfaction. Every act of measured kindness, every moment of thoughtful response, reflection is a silent assertion of strength. Weak people cannot calculate it. They cannot manipulate it. They cannot diminish it. Being kind doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean being naive. Reflection. It doesn't mean being defenseless. It means you are intentional. It means you choose your battles. It means you give without expectation and protect yourself without apology. Reflection. Weak people will test this. They will push, provoke, and attempt to take advantage. But the moment they realize that your kindness is a choice, not a concession, they lose power. Reflection. Every calculated act of compassion backed by discipline is a lesson in mastery that they cannot replicate. The combination of empathy, restraint, reflection, and boundaries is a fortress that weak people cannot breach. They may try to manipulate, guilt, or provoke, but kindness wielded with wisdom is untouchable. You are not their puppet, reflection, and their attempts to exploit your character only serve to highlight their own limitations. When you embody this kind of strength, reflection, you not only protect yourself, you demonstrate to everyone watching that real power lies not in aggression, but in the balance of heart and discipline. Reflection, in the courage to be gentle without being weak, in the wisdom to act without reacting, and in the mastery to extend grace while remaining unshakable. Reflection. Weak people only understand strength when it's silent because they are accustomed to measuring power through noise, chaos, and visible dominance. They are used to intimidation, to anger, reflection, to people raising their voices and reacting impulsively. That is their language. They assume that anyone who doesn't fight back, anyone who doesn't lash out, is weak or easily manipulated. Reflection. But the truth is, true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to prove itself through conflict or reaction. Silent strength is deliberate, controlled, and unshakable. Reflection. It's a quiet storm that cannot be stirred by petty provocations or empty threats. When you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your actions, and stop reacting to attempts to provoke you, reflection, you create a space where their influence evaporates. Silence becomes a weapon more powerful than anger, more precise than words, and more revealing than any display of force. Reflection. Weak people panic when they cannot elicit a response because their entire sense of control depends on the reactions of others. They are not used to resistance born from calmness. Reflection, they expect chaos to be the standard, and when confronted with quiet strength, they are disoriented. Detachment is key. By disengaging emotionally, reflection, you prevent them from gaining traction over your energy. Every insult, every jab, every attempt to trigger you loses its power when met with composure. Reflection, the more silent and measured your responses or lack of them, the more their manipulations collapse. They rely on your engagement to validate their existence. Reflection, and your refusal to participate strips them of their authority. What they cannot provoke, they cannot control, and what they cannot control, they cannot influence. This is not passivity, reflection, it is mastery. It is understanding that energy is finite, that attention is currency, and that allowing someone else to dictate your emotional state is surrender. Silent strength demands patience, reflection, awareness, and self-discipline. It is the practice of observing without reacting, of holding your focus when the world attempts to drag you into conflict, reflection, and of knowing that the loudest voices are not the strongest. By cultivating silent strength, you teach lessons without speaking. Every time you remain calm while others rage, reflection. Every time you hold your peace while others try to provoke, you demonstrate that true power is internal, self-controlled, and independent of external validation. Reflection. Weak people only understand strength when it is visible, but the truly powerful know that the most unbreakable force is invisible, rooted in self-mastery, calm resolve, reflection, and the refusal to be shaken by the chaos others try to impose. This silence doesn't just protect you, it disarms them, renders their tactics impotent, reflection, and establishes a level of authority that cannot be challenged or diminished. Weak people can't destroy you. They can only succeed if you hand them the power to do so. Their attacks, reflection, insults, provocations, and manipulations are all attempts to convince you that your peace, your confidence, or your focus is up for grabs. Reflection. They operate under the illusion that by rattling your emotions, they gain control. But the reality is that control over yourself is the only power that matters. Your reactions, your mindset, reflection, your choices, these are the fortress they can never breach unless you invite them in. The moment you refuse to give them that leverage, they lose every tool they thought would hurt you. Reflection, everything they do is a test, a measure of how much influence they can exert over your mind. They push buttons, sow discord, and try to provoke reflection. But all of it fails if you understand that your value, your energy, and your dignity are yours to protect. When you refuse to react, when you refuse to give them attention, reflection, you reclaim the authority they sought to steal. Your calm becomes a shield, your focus becomes a weapon, and your silence becomes a statement of strength far louder than their noise could ever be. Reflection. Weak people depend on distraction. They want you pulled into arguments, emotional spirals, and pointless conflicts because they cannot match you in discipline, vision, or self-control. Reflection. They crave your reaction because it validates their existence and gives them a fleeting sense of power. Every time you rise above, every time you maintain composure, reflection, you show them that strength is not measured by chaos, but by restraint. Their attacks are powerless against a mind trained to focus, a heart that refuses to be shaken, reflection, and a spirit that knows its own worth. The key is to see their attempts for what they are, a temporary test designed to measure your resolve. You are the gatekeeper of your own energy, reflection, and by mastering yourself, you render their efforts ineffective. They cannot harm what is protected by awareness, patience, and discipline. You decide how much power their words, their actions, reflection, and their provocations have over you. And when you choose none, you become untouchable. You must internalize this truth. Nothing external can control you unless you allow it. Reflection, every insult avoided, every provocation ignored, and every drama refused is a victory in itself. Weak people will continue to try, but their failures become your lessons. Reflection, their attempts to disturb your peace highlight your strength. By refusing to react, by holding your center, and by protecting your mental and emotional space, you rise above. Reflection, you outsmart them not by confrontation, but by mastery. You become unshakable, untouchable, and unstoppable, demonstrating that real power lies in self-control, not in the chaos of others. Reflection, so remember this: weak people will always try to trigger you, to pull you into their chaos, to test your patience and disturb your peace. But power is not in reacting, it is in rising above. Reflection, it is in choosing your battles, guarding your energy, and holding your focus when the world around you demands distraction. Every time you stay calm, every time you refuse to hand over your peace, reflection, you win. Every time you rise above their noise, you grow stronger, clearer, and more unstoppable. Stand firm. Protect your mind, your heart, and your purpose. Let them talk. Let them provoke. Reflection, let them try. Their weakness cannot touch you unless you give it permission. And when you refuse, when you master your reactions, flexion, when you hold your calm like armor, you don't just outsmart them, you become untouchable. That is true strength. That is real power. And that is the life you were meant to live.